Honey, I'm sorry.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, I'm gonna join calls now and we'll have you on the go-to meeting too, so.
We are mic'd up now, too.
Yep, we can hear you.
Testing? Yeah. Well, there's a lot of background noise on. There we go. Good. Okay, I think it is the witching time at 5:30 p.m. It is July 26, 2021. We're at 10 West State Street. Welcome to the City Council chambers, excluding the dog that was just barking. It is time for our regular meeting tonight. We are having one participate by phone and or Zoom, and we're trying out a new Zoom system, so this could be interesting tonight. Let's see here. Yeah, so my notes say to please join us at the meeting from your computer, tablet, or smartphone. We have a website available for you, and you can dial in by using another phone with an access code. Notice to the public is as follows. The mayor and city council welcome comment from the public during discussion of any of the items that are on the agenda. You must step to the mic, state your name and address for the record, and limit your time used to present your remarks to 3 minutes or less so that others may be given the opportunity to speak. All speakers must speak clearly and direct your comments to the mayor and city council and not to any councilor specifically. It is at the discretion of the mayor and council to respond to specific questions and comments or to have staff respond during the meeting. Now that we've been called to order, with those who are able, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Very good, thank you. Probably not a bad time to, like they do in church, recommend that people who have smartphones maybe make them smarter by turning them off or at least putting them for ring to vibrate. Let's do the roll call.
Gowdy. Hoop.
Here.
Isom. Bodyhoff.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Thompson. Here. Weirin.
Here.
Thank you. It's time for mayor, council, and administrative comments, starting with years of service. Do we have? We do have that presentation to go.
Come on up, Brian. Captain Brian Batterson. So Captain Brian Batterson is celebrating 30 years of exceptional service to the city of Marshalltown. So I have to remind everybody what was going on July 12th of 1991. That's when Brian was sworn in. George Bush Sr. was president. Naked Gun 2.5 was at the top of the box office. A good cop film, right? Naked Gun. So I'm not going to ask you to do the dance, but Paula Abdul was topping the U.S. charts with Rush Rush. I don't remember that.
How many of us would like to see him do the dance?
Bryan Adams was on top of the charts in the UK with Everything I Do It For You. And popular TV shows were Magnum P.I., another good cop show. The Cosby Show, I won't make any jokes about that. Married with Children, and Beverly Hills 90210. Alicia, you probably watched that one, didn't you?
She wasn't born yet. Come on.
All going on July 12th, 1991. And Brian Batterson was sworn in as a police officer in Marshalltown. So 30 years in law enforcement is extraordinary. 30 years in law enforcement at the same department is becoming unheard of. Brian has put in 30 years here, and I'm happy to report he's going to do at least one more before he calls it quit. And I just want everybody to know how much I appreciate Brian and how much we appreciate Brian. I've worked with Brian for 10 years, and he's made me a better person, a better police officer, a better chief. I've learned a lot from Brian. I love Brian for his direct approach. He'll tell you what he thinks, and he won't sugarcoat it. Whether you like it or not, you're going to know what Brian thinks, and that's important, especially when you're the police chief. Brian's got a ton of knowledge, a ton of institutional knowledge about our department and our community. He's a hard worker. He does a great job for us. And I would like to see Brian work for at least 3 more years, but we'll see what happens. So I just, on behalf of the city, Brian, on behalf of the Marshalltown Police Department, I just want to congratulate you on 30 years of exceptional service. Thank you. Smart guy. He's not going to say anything. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that is pretty exceptional. Thank you. And yeah, he doesn't mind speaking his mind, even if he stops you for speeding, I learned. We have another introduction of another officer, as I understand it. It sounded like it anyway. And you were smart, Brian, not to follow this act.
So I'm going to have Officer Nick Swoboda come up here with his new partner, our newest K-9, Atlas, and he's in training, so he's still a puppy. So bear with us. So I just want to say a couple things about Nick. Nick does a great job for us. He is a rock star as a police officer, but he's also a legit rock star because he was in a band for many years. So that's something Nick doesn't like me to talk about, but I like to share that about Nick. So I'm going to let Nick talk about his dog and the training he's about to go through.
Yes. About to go through? Yes. Yes, so, hi there. I'm Officer Nick Swoboda, as Chief Tupper said. This is Atlas. He is a 13-month-old Shepherd Malinois mix. I've had him now since July 5th. As you can see, he is still very much a puppy. So we are still in the phase of just doing some obedience work with him. So he's pretty wound up right now. I'm not sure how much he's going to listen to me at the moment, but this is the most people he's ever been in front of, so he's trying to show off a little bit. So on August 16th, I will head to Buffalo, Minnesota for 10 weeks of training. So that'll basically be handler training, and then I believe some narcotics detection training will be thrown in with that. Off. I don't know, you want to say off. Everybody sees you. And that'll be at where we're lucky enough to acquire the dog from, which was off. Performance Kettles in Buffalo, Minnesota. So as you can see, he is off. Come on. No.
Hey, Nick,
Yeah.
is the problem that he's 13 months old or he doesn't speak English yet?
You know, actually, all of his commands have been in English, so he knows those, and that's what we're sticking with. So, and the problem is he still has a pretty dumb handler. So, I mean, like they said, the training isn't for the dog; it's for the handler. And I completely 100% believe that. So
when you guys get back, that's when I get to wear the suit?
if you want to, yes, I will gladly volunteer you to come and do that.
Well, that's-
Anytime, Gary, that you want to,
Well, that's
you are
what
more
Chief
than
Tucker
welcome.
said. He said, you don't even have to wear the suit for a dog. He says, I could just put it on.
Well, you could. You sure could. We've got one. I can bring it for you if you want. You just come down to the PD.
And I thought you only liked to dress up on Saturday nights, Gary.
So, overall, I'm very excited. He is an awesome dog. Usually he's not this wound up, but the fact that he is this wound up is a good thing for what he's going to be doing for us. And so he is very smart. It's okay. Like I said, he's smarter than I am. And his obedience stuff that we're working on right now, good boy, good sit, is pretty exceptional. So, and I've got some good mentors with our former canine handlers. So I'm pretty excited and pretty fortunate to be doing this and continuing the program for Marshalltown Police Department. So pretty excited.
Thank you. You and he joined a pretty good force with a pretty good tradition around here.
Yes, I'm very familiar with that, and I truly look forward to being able to continue that and carry it on in the future. So.
Very good. Thank you.
Try to control that dog reminds me my job is being a police officer.
Yeah, I believe that, 100%.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Come on, buddy.
And I believe we have another presentation tonight as well.
Yes, I was in Burlington for the annual Iowa City County Management Association meeting a few weeks ago, and I had submitted one of our programs with the City of Marshalltown for a Program of the Year award from this organization, and that program was Impact, and Impact was the selected program. And so I have this award here in recognition of an innovative grassroots program that has positively influenced local government and quality of life in the community. And I don't think there's a better way to describe what Impact has done in a very short amount of time and will continue to do. So I wanted to present this to the PD and to YSS to hang out in whatever offices and hopefully be the first of many awards to come.
Very good.
Certainly want to keep it brief, but this would not be possible without the support of the Marshalltown City Council. This was just an idea a year ago. We started 6 months ago, and we're already receiving awards. So we're grateful, we're honored, plenty more work to do, but certainly I hope you share in this award with us and the PD. So thank you again.
Thank you. Keep up the good work. Anything else from our city administrator or anything else from the counselors up here?
None from me, Your Honor.
Mr. Thompson?
Just another shout out to a small business. Thank you, Your Honor. Thrifty Bazaar, their building got sold. They were downtown, one of our downtown businesses, and they moved out to the mall where Big Lots used to be, where Thompson True Value was for a while during their rebuild. So they're having their grand opening on August 3rd. So if everybody could support them, even though they left our downtown, which everybody knows how I feel about that, but still it's another victory. Businesses continue to prosper in town, so thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
Very good. Good to know. Things are getting exciting in terms of people investing in downtown and around town. Well, let me share two things. And Saturday morning was fun for two reasons. My wife was trying to kill me, so we went out and did the 5K in honor of Tim Bell, who was our track and cross country coach for a number of years. What was fun about that was to see so many state champions and district champions there with their families. They're all having kids now, and they haven't lost much in terms of speed. So Sharon did pretty well among the women. I was dead last, but made it as a 68-year-old in about 90 degrees with about 78% humidity. And then we went directly from there, sweaty, to the farmers market, which had a really good crowd. That is gaining momentum. I think the people that are running that are doing a wonderful job. And the vendors are making money. They're happy. The customers are showing up. The one guy with a whole truckload of corn was about out. I need to run faster next time. So that was just kind of a fun Saturday, typical in Marshtown. And, you know, for the people that move here and say there's nothing to do here, if you don't follow the chamber digest, the chamber record each week that tells the different things that are going on, and if you don't avail yourselves of all the opportunities that we have around here, you are just not trying hard enough. That's my advice to the people that are here and think that there aren't enough things to do. Take the kids out to the Grimes farm. Go just take a look at our Y. Go to the new tennis courts with the pickleball courts and sign up, because those are popular. Volunteer for the different things we have. Enjoy the 19 city parks we have around here. So there are just all sorts of things to do in this town, and it's going to get better. Enough pontificating. Let's go on to item F, which is the consent agenda. I understand Mr. Thompson would like to remove number 11 from that. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda 1 through 10?
So moved, Your Honor.
I move for approval.
We'll take.
Second, Your Honor.
Okay. We're on the motion. Thompson on the second. When you're able, would you read the items for us?
Approve minutes for the 7/12/21 meeting and bill list in the amount of $1,627,283.26. Approve liquor license renewals for Midnight Ballroom, 1700 South Center Street, Suite A1, Center Street Station at 19 North Center Street, Calvin Rocket at 2013 South Center Street, Depot Liquor and Grocery at 114 North Center Street. They have new ownership. Receipt of the building permit report for May and June 2021. Approve a tree trimmer license for John Harding. The second quarter strategic plan update. Resolution declaring certain property surplus property and authorizing disposal thereof of a 5-inch and 1 3/4-inch fire hose and 1 Amcus hydraulic extrication tool set. Resolution declaring certain property surplus property and authorizing sale and disposal thereof of a 1997 Gillig Phantom bus. Resolution setting a public hearing for the conveyance and transfer of title and parcel 831811301034 herein described from the city of Marshalltown, Iowa to Larry J. and Mary Ann Weber. Resolution authorizing the purchase of Bobcat Toolcat for the Parks and Recreation Department and trading in a 2014 Bobcat Toolcat. Resolution approving contract change order number 2 for the hangar terminal and site improvements project number APR 19001, an increase of $20,397.65.
Thank you, very good. On to the next item, which would be,
You want to vote?
Yeah.
Your Honor, we
oh,
didn't actually have a vote
I
on that.
suppose, yeah. Too big a hurry to get home and eat. Let's call roll.
Hoop,
Yes.
Lottie Hoff,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Weirin.
Yes.
Very good, that did carry. I swear by the end of the year, I'll get this down. Let's go on to the next item of business, which would be to solicit a motion to approve number 11 that was on the consent agenda. Would you read the resolution, and we'll see if anybody wants to move to approve it.
Resolution approving settlement agreement including purchase of real property.
Motion to approve, Your Honor.
Thank
Second.
you. Very good. Motion and second, and discussion. I guess I always call on the person that removed it from the agenda if there's any discussion. Mr. Thompson.
No discussion, Your Honor. Just wanted to vote no.
Okay. Any discussion? I guess we called for it from the council. Let's see if the public has any discussion, and go 10 seconds.
So there is not anybody on the go-to meeting as of now, and I
Okay.
will let you know if somebody does join the go-to meeting, but right now we don't have anybody. But I did want to clarify that this settlement is related to more than about $4.6 million in grant funds that we have received for the Edgewood Extension project. And so there is a project that is tied with this settlement.
Very good, thank you. And we'll figure that took more than 10 seconds anyway, if anybody did want to walk in the door here. Well, let's call the roll.
Hoop,
Yes.
Lottie Huff,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Thompson,
No.
Weirin.
Yes.
Okay, that one carried on to item G, motions. The first one is,
Motion to approve a 5-day liquor license for the Midnight Ballroom at the Central Iowa Fairgrounds Arena for September 21st through the 26th for a rodeo.
Move for approval.
thank you.
Second, Your Honor.
Very good, Lottie Hoff and Thompson. Discussion.
This is an event license on behalf of Louisa Ortega. She's going to be hosting a rodeo at the fairgrounds, so she has a 5-day license she's applied for.
That's my understanding, this isn't her first rodeo. too.
No, it's not.
Okay. Any discussion? Roll call.
Martin,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Weirin,
Yes.
Hoop,
No.
Lottie Hoff.
Yes.
Very good. On to item H, resolutions. What's the first one?
Resolution amending the debt policy to increase the debt capacity threshold to 75% of the legal debt capacity.
Is there a motion to be made about this one?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Discussion.
So this is based off of our discussion item from the last meeting of increasing the debt policy from 60 to 75%. And then Diana had just a few other, we typed up the policy so that it's in a Word document and not a typewriter document from 1997. And so in retyping that, Diana noted that there were a few small changes to make to that policy, which are included as it is. And so if you approve this tonight, we will then go ahead and make those changes and repackage it with the strikeouts noted and additional text noted.
Further discussion by council members?
Your Honor, it sounds like there are only 5 of us in the meeting tonight, and I move that we table this to the first meeting in August, please.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and second to table this. Any further discussion? If that calls for discussion, I don't remember if it does.
It does
I
not.
think it does not. No, it's non-debatable, according to my cheat sheet. Roll call.
Thompson?
No.
Weirin?
Yes.
Hoop?
No.
Lottie
No.
Martin?
Yes.
Okay, that one carried to table if my count was right. No, it was not right.
That was 3-2.
No, it failed. Okay, then let's call the roll on the vote itself. Back to the original motion that was seconded.
Hoop?
No.
Lottie
Yes.
Martin?
No.
Thompson?
Yes.
Weirin?
Yes.
I'll let the clerk count this time.
That passed.
That
It
carried.
did not pass. A resolution requires 4 votes in the affirmative to pass a majority of the council.
Okay. Thank you. That one failed. Let's go on to the next resolution then.
Resolution accepting bid and authorizing the award of contract for the chipping and hauling of vegetative debris project in City of Marshalltown, Iowa, in the amount of $161,440.50.
Let's listen to motion first. This is an interesting meeting tonight.
I'll move the resolution, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Very good. Now time for discussion.
Good evening, Justin Nickel, Public Works Director. The resolution in front of you is to approve yet another chipping and hauling of vegetative debris, this time for trees that were removed from the parks and from the terrace right-of-way area. There were 4 bids from contractors, and the low bid was from Thorpe Logging and Sawmill, who has performed, the last 2 or 3 chipping and debris contracts for us, and their low bid was $162-ish thousand, and my engineer's estimate based on our previous cost and the state's previous cost was about $250,000. So favorable bid on our behalf, and we would expect that this would be reimbursable from FEMA and the state, and then our own contribution.
Thanks, Justin. Any comments or questions by the council? We don't have many members of the public here tonight either, so let me just ask this. If anybody from the public does wish to speak on something, raise your hand. I can see well enough to catch you. Seeing none, let's go ahead and call the roll on this one.
Hoop?
Yes.
Lottie
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yeah.
Weirin?
Yes.
Okay, that one carried. On to the third resolution, please.
Resolution accepting bid and authorizing the award of contract to Construct, Inc. for the 2021 derecho stream channel clearing in the City of Marshalltown, Iowa, in the amount of $212,410.
Let's again call for a motion and second first.
I move for approval.
Thank you.
Second.
Very good. Discussion now.
Again, Justin Nickel, Public Works Director. This resolution is authorizing the award of contract to Construct for the removal of downed trees and vegetative debris in our streams and waterways. The project is funded through the I forget what the acronym for NRCS stands for.
National Resource Conservation Service.
Thank you, Jessica. Funded at about 137,000 of the 212,000. The memo and the resolution will point out to you that the 212,000 was about 60,000 greater than what we estimated. But we are also seeing that only one bid from a contractor, and the need to remove this vegetative debris, we are recommending that the city council go ahead and approve this contract. The city stormwater utility has enough funds to cover the 60,000 extra, and then the city will work with NRCS to see if there are any additional federal funds. I would have low expectations, but it's certainly worth investigating. Are there any questions I can answer?
If there aren't any questions, are there any comments? Roll call.
Martin,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Weirin,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Waddinghoff.
Yes.
Very good. That carried on to the next one. That's a public hearing. Would you read that one for us?
Public hearing and resolution approving interlocal grant agreement for the Iowa Burn Justice Assistance Grant Program for $16,240, split 50% with Marshall County to assist law enforcement programming and equipment purchases, and approval of memorandum of understanding to share grant funds with Marshall County.
I'll declare the public hearing is open at the time of 5:57 p.m. Did the clerk receive any written comments?
No, Your Honor.
Time for public comments. Raise your hand. Seeing none, it's time for staff review.
Mike Tupper, Marshalltown Police Department. This is a standard grant application that you see annually. This year, we've received $16,240, which is to be split 50-50 with Marshall County Sheriff's Office. The Marshalltown Police Department has decided to use its share of these funds to purchase some communication equipment for our crisis negotiations team. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Chief. Time for council comments. Hearing none, I declare the public hearing closed at 5:58 p.m. and I would call for a resolution approving.
Move for approval, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Your Honor.
Very good. Roll call.
Thompson,
Yes.
Weirin,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Waddinghoff,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Very good. On to the next public hearing, number 5.
Public hearing and resolution to approve the City of Marshalltown IEDA Downtown Revitalization Application for facade improvements.
And that public hearing is now open to the public at still 5:58 p.m. Did you receive any written comments to the clerk's office?
No, Your Honor.
Are there any public comments? Seeing none, we're on to staff review.
Thank you. Michelle Sponheimer, Housing Community Development Director. As we've talked about in the past, this is an application that we are submitting to the IEDA, Iowa Economic Development Administration, for a CDBG Community Development Block Grant, DTR, Downtown Revitalization Grant. A lot of initials I'm throwing at you there. This is formally the public hearing for that application submission, and if you bear with me, I have a few things that I need to read as part of that hearing. Essentially, we are having that public hearing right now to apply for the Downtown Revitalization application. We are asking for a resolution to approve that application submission, as well as a resolution to establish area of blight under the Iowa Urban Renewal Law. The city has been working on downtown revitalization to eliminate blight in our targeted downtown area, and the need for removing that blight has been a goal for us for decades, especially since the 2018 tornado and the 2020 derecho. Construction work would be limited to the front facades, and in some cases, when authorized, a side facade or roof structure on several buildings within our targeted area. The work would include on the new storefronts, upper story windows, brick improvements, painting, awning replacements, and other similar items. The project will meet the IEDA CDBG funding requirements of eliminating slum and blight. And these projects would help improve approximately 11 facades is what's targeted right now in the blighted area. The addresses are as follows that we are anticipating working on. 1 West Main Street, and then 14, 16, and 18 North Center. Those are all part of one building. 19 West Main Street, 21 West Main Street, 23 West Main Street, 25 West Main Street, 14 West Main Street, and 13 to 15 South Center Street. So there is kind of primarily in that what I call 10 block of Main Street and a little bit of Center. The city is planning to submit our application on or before August 16th to IEDA. We should hear about funding sometime in September to October of 2021. The project is done on a voluntary basis, and construction work under the project would commence after all the necessary environmental and historical reviews are completed, as well as bidding of the project. Anticipating start date would be sometime in calendar year 2022. And be finished by 2024. The total project cost is estimated at $1,322,500. Local building owners are required to provide a matching contribution in the amount of 20% to this project, and that totals $226,500. The city is also providing a match. As you may recall, we had a resolution earlier this year, or last fall, I guess actually, when we approved funding up to $500,000 to match this grant. Our estimated cost right now will be $396,000. That's supported by the city. Those amounts are all subject to the final bidding that has to still be let out if awarded. Additionally, the Rebuild Marshalltown Fund through the Community Foundation in Marshall County also committed $200,000 towards this project. And the grant request to the CDBG program is $500,000, giving us that total. During this project, no people or businesses would be displaced as a result of the project. And so those are the things specifically that I wanted to make sure we were included as part of our hearing. Ultimately, we've been working with Region 6 and the MCBD and the property owners involved with this application to kind of pull everything together. RDG Planning and Design has been doing all the design work and working with owners on those plans. And so we're excited to get this submitted. Julie is here from Region 6 if we have any specific technical questions that I can't answer that you may have. Otherwise, we look for approval on a resolution to submit the application, as well as the second resolution you have on here is the designation of that urban renewal area for slum and blight. That's an area we already have established, so it is not a new area. It's just confirmation of that for us under the language that IEDA requests as part of the grant application. Any questions?
Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, any questions for Michelle or comments by the council?
Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
I have a question for Michelle. If I
You
may.
bet.
Michelle, I'm confused. The list of addresses does not match the map.
So the
Other additional addresses can join this or not?
So the map area just kind of gives that overall boundary that encompasses all of them. So we have some gaps in there of places that are not included. We did have conversations with property owners within within the overall boundary area. Some of them either were not interested or may not have qualifying components that would make it grant eligible. Also would sometimes depend on what other projects they might have planned for the future, because there are limitations when you're working with this that you can't do other things. And so combination of some of those pieces, we probably at this point would not look to add new properties. Would that be fair, Julie? Some of these properties that are included could still at some point pull out of the project. We certainly hope that that's not the case, and all of them have at least provided some level of commitment that they're going to participate. But because of all the work that has to be done in a preparation for the application, we really won't see an opportunity for an addition to occur beyond this point.
Okay, so those that are not on the list, they were contacted by you or by Julie?
That are within that designated boundary. Yes, we had contact with all those and many others without when we were trying to determine where exactly that boundary was going to be.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Sure. Other questions or comments?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Very good. I will declare the public hearing is closed at 6:05 PM and solicit a motion to approve it.
I move for approval.
Thank you.
More item. If we could keep that public hearing open just for one more moment. The other item was the needs assessment on council agenda. That's also a requirement of the public hearing.
Oh, okay.
I
Sorry.
forgot the needs assessment. Sorry. I had a lot of things to cover. I forgot one of them. I apologize.
That's all right.
So one of the other items.
We're back open in the
We're back up.
open public hearing.
One of the other things that we do need to just briefly cover is the needs assessment portion, right? Yes. And so as part of this project, we do need to identify needs within our community, specifically related to housing and community development. This too is included in your packet of information that we have highlighted as identified needs, especially for those of low, moderate income persons as well. So affordable housing is something that we are always talking about. As a need, also facilities and upgrades to infrastructure, sidewalks, accessibility, and park improvements and things like those are the things that we commonly refer to. These are things that you include in your strategic planning session every year. Basic projects. We've also identified some of the more specific items related to downtown improvements, focused on dilapidated buildings and impacts from our natural weather events. And then additionally, we have items that are planned or potential projects that are ongoing. And I have about a page list of those kind of projects that have been included in work that's either underway or, as I said, planned. And so there's a complete list there in your packet. And so if you have any additional items that you would want to include as part of those needs, we certainly would want to make note of that. But otherwise, I think we tried to get a comprehensive look at all of those types of things that we're working on. Now, did I hit it all? Okay.
Okay.
Julie's making sure I'm checking every box.
No, that's all right. We got to do it right, and we appreciate all the work that goes behind this. I mean, the public has no clue just how hard the staff has to work to keep this stuff going and apply for the grants and do the reporting on the grants and that sort of thing. But did that generate any other comments or questions by the council? If not, let's call it, the public hearing is now closed at 6:07 PM, and I will consider that Councilor Weirin's motion to approve it is still on the table. Is there a second?
Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there a second to her motion?
Second.
Let's call the roll.
Martin,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Weirin,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Bodyhoff,
Yes.
Very good. And the last resolution related to the last resolution is number 6. Would you read that one?
resolution of necessity to declare an urban renewal area in the city of Marshalltown.
Move for approval.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion. Roll call.
Hoop,
Yes.
Bodyhoff,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Weirin,
Yes.
Very
Your
good.
Honor,
Yes, sir.
before we move into the discussion items, I need a point of clarification on making a motion to reconsider an earlier item. I wish legal counsel was here. It's my understanding from chapter 35, the council manual, if I was voting for something and it failed, I have the right to ask for reconsideration of that resolution.
That's not correct. The motion to reconsider can be made in the meeting only by someone who voted against it. And same with our rules, save to do for the 10 days, there is a there is a motion to reconsider as well.
I'm reading chapter 35.19A. Do you have that pulled up?
I actually had the council manual that is in our city permanent documents pulled up.
Okay. So it says, after a vote is taken, the matter is deemed concluded and is subject to reconsideration only upon a timely motion. A motion to reconsider shall only be made by a council member who originally voted in favor of the measure. Those of us that voted in favor of the measure were defeated.
I don't believe that is correct from a rule standpoint.
I mean, is that the sentence that you have pulled up in front of you?
There is something different in the council manual.
I'm reading from what's on my laptop that is the ordinance.
Yeah, there's a conflict between the Code of Ordinances and the document that was adopted by council. Regardless of that, your 2/3 majority to continue to bring something up would be 5, and so that would require the vote of.
2/3 majority. A motion to reconsider requires 2/3 majority vote to pass, just to bring it for reconsideration.
Correct, so you'd have to have all 5 council members present tonight vote.
2/3 of who's here, or 2/3 of the?
2/3 of the whole body of 7.
So all 5, so you're telling me, first of all, I'm out of order.
I'm not telling you that. I'm telling you that there is a conflict between 2 documents, and there's not anybody here to resolve that. But I think regardless of that conflict, if you don't have all 5 of you voting to reconsider it, even regardless if you could bring it up, then there's no way to continue to bring it up. So there's kind of 2 issues. The first is we've got conflicting language. The second is that because there's only 5 present, all 5 have to vote to reconsider.
Can a motion to table be reconsidered? If all 5 vote to table it until next meeting?
That's a question I don't know the answer
Where is our legal
to.
counsel tonight?
He is returning from vacation and was not sure if he'd be able to make it or
Do we have
not.
other legal services available to us that we could have somebody here?
No, I mean, we thought he would be here tonight. Ultimately, we did not have other legal services available to us.
So what
Through.
is the procedure that we're in limbo on what I can do to get something back on the agenda for vote?
At this point, I mean, it's something that we can discuss outside of the meeting, what this looks like in terms of coming back for additional discussion item. The other thing that you can do is you can go ahead and take an action, and if we do find it to be not a legal action, then ultimately it would be invalidated.
Is the other side of that coin, if I don't take an action tonight and find out later that I had to take an action tonight, that I'm dead in the water?
Our council rules do allow for any sort of action to be taken 10 days, that a motion to consider can occur up to 10 days after the meeting. So you would still have the ability to do that if indeed you, as being one who voted for the measure, would still be allowed to do that.
No, that's not what it says. It says you have to be on the, what I'm reading, which is in conflict with what you're reading, how can we have a council manual adopted and the council manual is actually chapter 35 of the ordinance? How can they be in conflict with each other?
I don't know what was submitted to the ordinance company. It should actually not be part of our code of ordinances, and that is something we're looking to correct when we revise the council manual, is to take it out of the code of ordinances. But it does say a motion to reconsider may also be made in the case of a failed measure if at a subsequent meeting within 10 days of the original measure's failure by a council member, and it says online, they voted against the measure.
But I didn't vote against the measure, so I can't bring it up in 10 days. I voted for the measure.
Correct.
See, what I'm reading here is, if I vote yes, I have to bring it up and I lose, I have to bring it up in the same meeting. If I vote no, I still have the option to bring it back to the next meeting.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to get at is, tonight, we just told the taxpayers that we don't give a crap about how bad their streets are, and we're not gonna fix their streets. Because the only way we can fix the streets, based on the report we got from Justin's department, is if we raise that debt limit. Tonight, this council said, we're not gonna raise that debt limit. So in essence, we just told every citizen of Marshalltown, your streets are gonna continue to decline. And then the other side note is, if people are elected to be here, they need to be here. They don't need to call in, they don't need to Zoom in, they need to be here. We only meet twice a month.
Well, at this point, let me suggest a few things. One, there are good reasons for not being here. Being sick is one of them. I missed a meeting 2 weeks ago because I was in the middle of a jury trial out of the city. There was no way I could be both places. It's a 2.5-hour commute. Having difficulty with travel, we've personally discovered that we're back to normal, and that normal and travel anymore, especially air travel, isn't very fun. The last flight we had in our family was 4 hours, 5 hours delayed. So there really are good reasons for not being here. But we also have a practical problem if the rule requires a revote within 10 days or a motion within 10 days, and we're not going to meet for another 14 days, and we're not probably going to have a special meeting. That puts a little bit of a challenge on the time deadline for that. So my recommendation, without legal counsel here, is that if you need to make a protective motion, I would suggest you do it. If it carries and we discover later from legal counsel that it was an invalid vote, then it will be reversed.
And I, just to clarify, I apologize, Councilmember Thompson. I was reading the two sections the same. You're right. I still do think there probably is an error in the language of that paragraph, but you are correct that it says if you voted for it, you can reconsider it at the meeting. If you voted against it, you can reconsider it, bring back the motion to reconsider 10 days. The motion to reconsider in 10 days would involve asking the mayor to set a special meeting in order to have that reconsideration can occur in that time frame.
So where do we stand on my motion just to table it? Is that a separate motion, or is a motion to table it part of the original motion?
I don't think there's anything pending right now, so a motion to table doesn't make any sense to me.
I'm saying reconsider the vote to table.
Because he voted against it, he should be able to.
But if you didn't, I was going to say, but you didn't vote for the motion to table.
Right. So now you're agreeing with me that the positive vote gets the revote tonight, the negative vote gets the 10 days.
Per what is in there, again, I do think there is an error there somewhere, but I agree with the mayor's strategy that if you want to vote on the motion to reconsider as being someone who voted for it, that is what our rules say right now. We will get clarification.
And then you're saying that this sentence, a motion to reconsider requires a 2/3 majority, and you're saying that that is 2/3 majority of the 7, not 2/3 majority of those present.
Correct.
That's my understanding, according to my cheat sheet up here as well.
Then I would make a motion to, I got nothing to lose, I'd make a motion to reconsider the earlier vote on the resolution 2021-194, amending the debt policy to increase the debt capacity threshold to 75% of the legal debt capacity. So it's my understanding, now what you're saying is, it takes all 5 of us to say aye to then re-vote that resolution.
It would take all 5 of you to bring it back to the floor where you could then have a new vote on it.
And my motion to reconsider requires an immediate vote then?
Yes.
Does it need a second?
It needs a
You
second.
would.
Well, how does it need a second if it requires all 5 of us to?
Is that your,
Any motion requires a second.
Right, I put that motion on the table, Your Honor.
It's on the table. I'm waiting for a second.
Second.
And this is non-debatable, so I call for the roll.
Martin,
No.
Thompson,
Yes.
Weirin,
Yes.
Hoop,
No.
Lottie Hoff.
Yes.
Okay, I believe that failed as well, but we'll run it past legal counsel when travel allows him to be back.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. just as a protective matter. If you get different advice, if legal counsel comes up with a different solution, or there is a way to revisit it and it requires a special meeting, I would be amenable to looking at that as an option. Okay, let's go on to discussion items, the first of which is a review of the marketing proposals.
Yes, I'll go ahead and get this started, and then we have Michael Sills with On Media and Julie Hitchens with Vision Marshalltown here. This has been a long time coming, but I think that we have a great sort of combining of two proposals into the most benefit for the community. I did want to just point out kind of that this was something that in place of MIC-TV, you provided $40,000 for kind of internal marketing. And so we put out a request for proposal. Ultimately, we received 9 responses. 3 did not adhere to the $40,000, so they were automatically nixed, as that was a pretty solid number that we were working from. There were 6 finalists who presented mostly online and video options, and then there were 2 on Media and Vision Marshalltown that really stood out. And so the committee, which consisted of Councilmember Martin, Alicia Hunter, Jill Petermeyer with HR, Sarah Rosenblum, and then Chief Ryerson, who I think he left, reviewed all of these and picked On Media and Vision Marshalltown as kind of the 2 that rose to the top. We did not take their original proposals, but had a meeting last week in which we talked about how the 2 could work together and how that would allow for a scope of work for each of them that really was coordinated, but doing some different things. And so that's what's here before you tonight, and we do have both of them here to speak about their proposals. I think Councilmember Martin wanted to say a few things before they spoke.
If I may, I applaud the effort that has gone into this, and the 2 agencies, if you will, On Media and Vision Marshalltown, who, with our input, have agreed to work together in a meaningful fashion. They together are meeting our criteria for what we wanted to reach all segments, if you will, of the community, and both bring good history and quality work to this project. So I'm pleased to have sat on the committee, but moreover to have come about with a really good project and going forward. So, thank you.
Michael Sills with On Media. I just wanted to know if there's any questions about the proposal, any details that I might be able to enlighten you on. I did work with Kylie so that we can work together as a team for the creative aspects of it, mostly through Kylie working with Jessica. We'll work kind of as a 3-headed partnership to work together and get all of the materials and everything put together. This is basically a multi-screen platform so that we can reach people in various capacities, whether it be using their computers, doing streaming for television, streaming for audio, regular cable TV. So it's a multi-platform so that we can reach everybody within the Marshalltown community.
Thank you.
Julie Hitchens, 308 North 4th Street, representing Vision Marshalltown. I am not the marketing person. I am a board member, and Kylie has really championed this through Vision Marshalltown, the Marshalltown more than ever, and we are very excited to be working with On Media and Michael Sills. So are there any questions regarding Vision Marshalltown?
Okay, thank you, Julie.
And so my recommendation is that for the next meeting on August 9th, that we would bring forward 2 contracts not to exceed $20,000 each, which are kind of defined in the attached scope of works with this agenda item. to bring back for your approval on August 9th.
If there are any objections to that, let's hear them. Otherwise, staff will go ahead and proceed that way.
I have some questions, Your Honor, if I may.
Okay, you may.
Jessica, the other, so the 3 were ruled out because they were over, that left 6. Were the other 4 approached to ask them to resubmit a $20,000 plan?
No,
Since you changed the parameters of the scope of work?
They were not. I would say, and Alicia, Bill, or Sarah, feel free to weigh in here. They were mostly focused on a video or a different form of advertising. And so it was these 2 original proposals. So the original proposals for both On Media and Vision Marshalltown contained many of the elements that are here. On Media was really kind of around that $20,000 range initially with sort of one element of their proposal, and Vision Marshalltown was asked to kind of reduce back what they were. So it was not asking them to completely change their proposal. It was still keeping the same elements of their proposal, just at a lesser dollar amount and a little bit of a lesser scope of work.
And then if we do proceed with this, who would we make the check out to Vision Marshalltown?
Vision Marshalltown's physical sponsor is the Marshalltown Central Business District. So all their funds run through that nonprofit.
Other questions or comments? Or is staff okay with that direction, or do you need a vote?
I would prefer a vote. You know, my preference, even though it maybe didn't happen tonight, is that we have an idea if this is something that the council wants to do before bringing it forward on a resolution.
Okay, I'd solicit a motion for or against that.
Your Honor,
Mr. Martin?
you do want a motion, do you not?
I do.
I so move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and vote.
Hoop,
Yes.
Bodyhoff,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Thompson,
No.
Waring.
Yes.
Okay. Staff has its direction on that one. Next discussion item number 2 is the property sale proceeds. I'm not sure how to pronounce the next word. Viejo Bluffs. Thank you.
Yes, so we have closed on the property sale of the 2 lots in the Viejo Bluff subdivision, and we have $247,700 in sale proceeds that I'm looking for your direction on how to move forward. So there are the original land purchase was done with bond proceeds from the 2019 A general obligation bond. So there's a few options that I've put out there, but quite frankly, you can choose whatever you would like to do. We had pledged council designated local option sales tax towards part of the South 7th Avenue extension. We could supplement that, most of that with these funds, knowing that's still very much a design level estimate and we need to get a construction level estimate. Purchasing additional land for an additional extension of East Merle Hibbs. That next segment does have a likely connection with South 7th Avenue into the Cross Country Estates subdivision, and we have had some conversations with some potential developers of that segment of Cross Country Estates. We could also plan to reduce our fiscal year 22 general obligation borrowing. I'm not sure what that conversation will look like in a little bit, but you can certainly say that you want to apply that to some of the things that are on that project list for borrowing. And then we can always deposit it in the debt service fund to apply against future debt payments. While that's certainly a great thing to do, keep in mind that there is sort of a timeliness of it, that we won't be submitting our next tax levy until March of next year, and that would be effective then for the taxes levied after July 1st of next year. So it would earn interest while sitting in the debt service fund, but it would not actually probably be applied until fiscal year '23. And so those were just a few things that had come to mind as we looked at our capital improvement plan. I'm happy to answer any questions, and we'd like to just see a motion made, if there's one to be made, on where to go.
Anybody wish to make a motion?
My preference would be to put the local option sales tax back from the South 7th Avenue project and apply it toward that. So I'd make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Thompson?
No.
Weirin?
No.
Hoop?
Yes.
Bodyhoff?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Okay, that one carried as well. Staff has direction on it.
And so that will come back on a resolution at the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay. On to number 3, which is the for year 2022 budget update. Diana.
Good evening, Diana Steiner, Finance Director. So 6 months ago, we were building the FY22 budget. And if you recall, at that point in time, when we talked about salaries, I told you that we budgeted 100% of every position. So we didn't factor in any vacancy factor or turnover. When July 1st rolled around this year and we actually started loading information into payroll, we realized that we misinterpreted the police officer union contract. It switched from step increases to years of service. So therefore, we under budgeted that piece by almost $16,000. And then secondly, even though we had a police staff member listed, her amount accidentally got zeroed out. So therefore, that budget was $43,000 too low. So together, that is a $59,211 deficit. So that will be ongoing because, you know, we missed that amount. So next year when we do the FY23 budget, we will be that short that amount as well. Trying to pull up the document here. And then also, when we get to the FY23 budget, during the legislative session, they decided that they would not be funding backfill at the level as they had before. And so Marshalltown is in the 8-year phase out. So $48,000 a year, every year, compounding basically. So FY23 would be $48,000 less, then it's going to be, you know, $96,000 less, et cetera, all the way till it gets to zero. So we're also going to be having that issue when we're talking about the FY23 budget. But for the FY22 budget, I wanted to know how you wanted to fund the $59,000 deficit due to these police department positions. We could use the fund balance, and that's what you decided to use when we originally brought you the deficit for FY22, or if there's some other tactic that you want us to use. I will say that because we do 100% budget and don't account for any vacancy factor, there probably will be some savings throughout the year, and we're at the beginning of the year. So, but I just need your direction.
Anybody wish to give any direction or have any questions?
Diana, does the fund balance seem to be the most logical, or one of the more logical?
At this point, yes. I mean, when we actually do a budget amendment later in the year, we can bring it up again, you know, to see if there has been savings through turnover. But in the past, you've covered deficits with the local option sales tax as well, when we wanted to bring the balance, when we wanted to bring the budget into balance. So it looked on paper like we were zero.
Other questions or comments? Again, do you feel the need for a vote on that one to affirm that direction?
We really weren't looking for a vote. We were just looking to make you aware of the issue and that that's going to be a discussion item, not only for our current budget, but for next year's budget as we start in fiscal year 23 budgeting later this year. And so we want to keep that on everybody's mind front and center, as that's going to be something that will be a carrying discussion. So doing nothing basically means we're intending to use fund balance unless something else, some other action occurs in the short term.
Okay, that was my understanding as well. Very good, thank you. Let's go on to the next item, number 4, update on debt capacity evaluations.
Diana Steiner, Finance Director. So at the last meeting, we talked about debt capacity and the growth of our valuations. And we presented that we would only grow by 0.5%. And some council members thought that that was too low. So we went back and kind of put some numbers together for actual evaluations and the percent increase. So that's what these are. So we have the last 5 years here. And the percent increase is right underneath from the prior year. So even though for FY21, our before gas and electric utilities, which is property tax, the different type, the increase was only 1.14% for this fiscal year, or fiscal year 2022, yeah. Gas and electric utilities actually went down a little bit, 0.84%. That was due to miscalculation of Alliant Energy submitting their costs to the state. And so that was a 0.63% increase. When we go back and look at what the average was, before gas and electric, it was 3.02%. And utilities was 9.875%. However, I'm not comfortable using those rates. Gas and electric is based on generation of power and transmission and delivery of power. Back in FY20, the Alliant, we got benefit of the Alliant plant being online. So that's why the increase went up so much. So I don't think you want to necessarily include these high percentages because it's not an ongoing thing. It was a one-time thing. So if I take that out and just say, okay, I'm going to assume 0% for gas and electric, then the average is 2.25%. However, this doesn't take into account the derecho, and it may or may not take things up or down. We've had lots of building permits, so maybe we'll increase. But with the derecho, there may be things that decrease. So even at the 3% for regular property tax, that's an unknown as well. But this is just information only for you, since you requested it. So then we can go on to the actual valuations. make this a little bigger. Okay. So we shared with you before what Spear Financial put together. Again, it was 0.5% annual growth across the different years at a 60% limit. So that's what we were basing on our prior discussions of what we can borrow. So for fiscal year 22, we can only borrow $6.8 million. The next chart is if we bumped it up to 75% and put in a 2.25% growth. So FY22 again is actual valuations. So the remaining debt capacity would be almost $20 million for this fiscal year. And if we took it up to 4.51% growth, again, we'd be at almost 20 million, but you can see that the outer years go up as well. So this, again, is just for information only, to present things in a different way. And if the debt policy doesn't change, then these are a moot point. So you'd have to stick with this. And this doesn't account for any new borrowing. So if we borrowed $10 million a year, which we can't because we're limited to 6.8, but those balances would go down. Any questions on this?
Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Diana, what percentage do you really feel comfortable with?
Well,
Based on what's going on in town and everything?
yeah. Well, we're having a lot of growth right now, but again, that doesn't hit for 2 years out.
Right.
So, I mean, you know, we like to be conservative, so, you know, our actual taxable growth of this current year was 0.5%. So I'd say between 0.5 and maybe 1 at the most. Growth.
2 more years, 3
For,
more years.
for growth, yeah. But again, the debt capacity is based on 100% valuations. So it's a slight different than the
So
taxable
if I
value.
had to push you, you'd go to 1% max for 3 years, and then to what, the fourth?
Well, I don't know for 3 years, but, you know, we'd have to see what the effect of the derecho was and for the new buildings coming on.
So when we go to that paranormal fair at the end of August, we could look in a crystal ball and see what it's gonna be?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of variables. We thought that we would really be impacted by the tornado, and then we went up a lot. And then the next year, we thought we'd be good, and then it dropped. So it's up and down a lot.
Right, thank you, Diana. Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. Any other questions or comments for Diana?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. On to the American Rescue Plan update.
It's a little bit of everything update, and given everything they prepared in here for debt capacity was based on that 75%, so I don't know that there's probably much to talk about tonight until we know what's going to happen with that. But there's still some conversation that we can have about a few things. So after the last meeting, you know, wanted to bring the American Rescue Plan back for discussion, knowing that there's one common item, one common project on the list for both of those, and that is the State Street project. And so I just kind of want to run through this and see if you have any thing to share on this. But I also did want to talk more about the American Rescue Plan because we received an official document today, which I passed out to you a little bit earlier on, which confirms the dollar amount that we're going to receive, and it is slightly higher than what we had thought we were going to get at $3,973,865. And so there's a little bit more money there than what we had been discussing, and so I felt like we could discuss that a little bit more, as well as the context for the State Street project. So we'll start with State Street, and then if there is any direction on any of the borrowing, certainly willing to take it, but I feel like we do have some procedural questions to answer before further discussion there. So I included in your packet basically kind of the summary of what was listed for Phase 1A and 1B for State Street, and then the opinion of probable costs for both of those. What we end up with a total is 6.5 million approximately. And so the way that it's laid out between borrowing and American Rescue Plan right now is $2 million coming from the American Rescue Plan to help fund water, stormwater and sanitary sewer, as well as then, part of the roadway above them that is eligible. We actually have $4.56 million of eligible American Rescue Plan costs. We obviously don't have that much money there, so that's why you see things split. And then we had a proposal for $4.5 million in general obligation bonds. As I look through that cost estimate in a few different ways, I thought there were some ways that we could trim approximately $1 million, depending on how much sort of risk you want to take in the planning effort right now, off of the 6.5 million total to come from other sources or to not do. So there's kind of, I'll run through these things and then we can talk about them. I'm happy to try and answer anything about the opinion of probable costs. But there's a few things. So Phase 1B is $100,000. It's not much, but it's really 3rd Avenue to 5th Avenue, addressing sidewalk and street trees and some of the issues there. When Bolton and Mink broke down what would be the American Rescue Plan eligible costs, there was approximately $500,000 that was sanitary sewer specific. Our sanitary sewer fund, as we have discussed, does have a decent cash balance, so we can easily put that there. I will say that there was also $630-some thousand of stormwater, but stormwater does not sort of have that same cash position currently as sanitary sewer. I didn't include it in here, but we do have a stormwater study coming up where you could certainly pull that out and say, let's adjust our rates to make sure that that's a project that we're receiving funds to pay for that at this time. So there's another element of that as well. The other part is waterworks. They certainly could contribute to certain elements of their infrastructure. This State Street is unique for them in that they have 2 mains running. One is just basically a transport main. There's no connections to it. And the secondary main is the one that has all the valves and connections for properties coming off of it. And so that could certainly be an expense that they would contribute to that. I did talk to Shelley Lavelle, who is their director, prior to this meeting to let her know that that was out there as an option. And she said that was certainly something that we could discuss further. And then finally, as I looked at sort of what is the pretty stuff, the aesthetic stuff as part of this first phase, there's about $800,000 in there, for street trees, site furnishings, decorative pavement, wayfinding signs, and a few other things where I feel, knowing what funds exist out there, that we would probably be able to say there's $100,000 that we could pursue from multiple sources to help cover some of those things that are part of the aesthetic aspect of the project. So we certainly don't need to fund $2 million wholly from American Rescue Plan funds and 4.5 from general obligation bonds. There is some ways to shift some funds around. Now really would be the time to identify what those sources are going to be and how you would like to do that so that we can start to then figure out the impacts on each number. And I do have both the American Rescue Plan sheet brought up so you can kind of see what things look like with our new number, as well as then what we had intended for the GO bond discussion, knowing that this bottom number sort of, it changes back to 6.8 million. So things are open for discussion on State Street if there's any direction you'd want to provide at this point. I feel like if there's no direction to be provided, we'll keep it kind of as we have it and coming back for any future discussions, unless there's something you'd like to do with it.
Anybody have any direction, given the caveat that we may need to see what happens in the next 2 weeks too?
I have a question, Your Honor.
Go for it.
Jessica, didn't you say earlier that the waterworks, they have to piggyback on us for their funding for different things? Did you say they had a project they wanted to bring forth to us?
So through the American Rescue Plan, yes, they did have some projects that they wanted us to consider, but truly putting any American Rescue Plan dollars towards State Street is putting some towards their work. We probably wouldn't be doing a full reconstruction if not for a 1901 and a 1924 water main that's underneath the ground.
But do we have that list from them yet of their projects?
We do not, no. I did advise Shelley that we were having this discussion tonight and that we certainly have more than enough uses for the funds that we
Did she say
have.
when she'd have that available for us?
She didn't, but I would say that probably in the way that I said it is what we're discussing tonight is kind of the list for the American Rescue Plan. So I would say I probably phrased that in a way that it wasn't open and inviting her to submit anything additional.
You know, on State Street, how much is eligible for the American Rescue Plan? I mean, obviously more than the 2 million.
4.56 million.
Other,
All eligible
Yes.
for State Street?
Yes, because it is what you have to do above the water and the sewer lines is also eligible. So there's a certain number of cubic yards of pavement that's going to be removed. That's probably not my correct measurement, is it, Justin? Close enough. There's pavement that has to be removed to be able to do the replacements, and you get to count whatever that, removal cost and replacement cost of that pavement is. So not the entire street. You can't count the entire street as eligible, but certainly, especially since it's on both sides of the street, you're talking about tearing out sidewalk and curb and gutter and street on both sides.
So how soon do you need us to make a decision? Can we wait till we see what her list is?
Yeah, I can ask Shelley to come back and present a list. To kind of jump to the American Rescue Plan, I did provide the updated spreadsheet that is before you right here tonight, that does show we still have, with things even at a higher amount, we still have more need identified than what we are getting awarded. And I should be very clear in saying that this number down here, the 4.1 that this totals up to, does not include anything for general fund revenue replacement, regardless of what scenario that's on. So you would really have the ability to identify funding, if any, to put towards the general fund in this fiscal year, as well as fiscal year 23 and 24, which is not included in this number. So there's some decisions to be made there that right now this list doesn't total. There certainly are some ways to shift some costs off of it, or to say these are just things that we don't think we'll be able to do. But I can certainly have Shelley get together her list of projects.
other comments or questions for Jessica?
And so, given the questions that are outstanding right now, I, again, don't know if there's any discussion to really have on the projects. With your previous motion to not put any towards the sale proceeds, there's nothing that really changes on this list as of right now. But again, we're at some different numbers than what we need to be. So I'm happy to bring this back to the next meeting for further discussion. But we are getting very close to the point where we need to have some decisions made on what projects are moving forward, so that we can start working with our financial and bond counsel in order to get things moving for a December 1st closing date.
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
can I ask you a question on one of these items, just for clarification?
Yeah, certainly.
The trailhead, that's, I just want to make sure I understand this. That's a restroom that'll be located near the skate park.
That's correct, yes.
And then the parking would be the South Sixth Street Diamonds.
Yes, that number probably needs to adjust a little bit more we did have some funds in there. The Trails Inc. group currently has, I think it's $200,000 to put towards a trailhead. And so that was a project that they were putting money towards. We ended up with the softball complex, I think, taking care of some of the parking. I need to go back and revisit it. I honestly, because it's in the next fiscal year, had not adjusted that number by things that had changed.
Can I ask a stupid question about that?
Certainly.
If that trail head serves the greater trail, okay, but specifically it benefits the two restaurants that will be on the stub, Wayward Social and the Legion, why can't people use the Legion and Wayward Social parking lots to be their trailhead, and all we really need to do is put a bathroom next to the public restroom next to the skate park?
So I think there's a bigger thing, that it's not just, a trailhead is not just to serve those, because located in the skate park, it then provides basically a restroom for pedestrians or kids using the skate park. It also serves the Lynn Creek Trail as well as the River's Edge Trail. So there's a larger trail segment that it serves as well.
I'm not disagreeing with the restroom. I think that's the only thing we need to put in, is a restroom.
Yeah, so it's a restroom and shelter area. I'd have to go back and get the specifics on it, but there is some outside funding. I think we'd actually included that it would be potentially an Iowa Great Places project, but if there is another project that were to move forward in this year, that would not be possible to have that for next year. So that one would need to be revisited based on what all is happening.
And then the other question is the dangerous and dilapidated buildings. Why is that such a huge number this year?
So it's really looking at what do we currently own without FEMA funding, which
that's
we're.
That's what I was going to say. This is the number if FEMA lets us down on the appeal.
That's correct, as well as then looking at what I was projecting out for the number of residential properties we'd likely acquire in the next year as well. But really, it's looking at our FEMA projects and then the two larger commercial demolitions of properties we own that there is no FEMA funding involved, where there will be an expense.
And that eats up about, what, 800,000 of that, right?
So we're roughly looking at $200,000 to $250,000 per each of these commercial properties right now. Yeah, so there's a decent amount of money involved with the demolition process.
Well, can you get that list from the waterworks then?
Yep.
And come back to us and see what, because we may be blindsided by something we don't know about. We may actually have more bargaining power because of that list.
Yep, I can bring that back to the next meeting.
Right, thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
You bet. Anything else? Okay, that takes us on to public comment, so I get to read another caveat. Members of the public may make comments on any item that was not on the agenda during this time. Approach the mic, state your name and address, limit comments to 3 minutes unless longer is authorized by me. Direct your comments to the mayor and council as a whole, and we as mayor and council shall not engage in discussion or debate on those items because that might violate the open meetings laws. Mic is open.
Mike Tupper, Marshalltown Police Department. So, if you haven't noticed, I really love my job. I really appreciate the opportunity, but it's not all rainbows and unicorns, and so sometimes I have to be the bearer of bad news and the public face of negativity. And when you already have a face for radio, negativity is not good. But I know. Yeah. So the last few weeks have been kind of rough for our community, and it seems like we've had more than our fair share of tragedy over the past few years, quite frankly. But the past few weeks have been rough, and it's been rough for our school district. It's been rough for our cops that have had to endure some horrific stories and challenges. I just want everybody to know that we're going to be okay. We have a safe community. We have a strong community. We have a great school district. We have great teachers. We have great leadership in the school district. They're working very hard along with the police department to address these issues, and I'm confident that it's going to be okay. And I'm going to confidently send my children to school in August in the Marshalltown School District. So I would encourage everybody to shut off your social media, take a deep breath, relax, and maybe think about what you can do as a community member to make Marshalltown stronger, to make Marshalltown successful, and to support your neighbors. So there's a lot of people hurting right now, and they just need our support. So as the police chief, or whatever it's worth, everything is okay in our community, and everything is okay in our school district. And I just thought you should hear that from me. Thank you.
Thank you. We don't get to debate or really comment, but I can't help myself about this. Something tells me that if we didn't have such a good school district and such a good police department, we wouldn't be catching people like we do. That was my wife's and my reaction to what's happened in the last few weeks, and everything you said I'm hearing echoed around the community, truly. So thank you for those remarks. Anyone else like to publicly comment? It is 7:01 and we are adjourned. Thank you for coming.